I would like to call to order the Middletown City Council meeting for Tuesday, May 19th, 2020. Let's start this meeting with a moment of meditation followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. It might be me.
Ms. Skank, will you please call the roll for us?
Ms. Vittori.
Here.
Ms. Nenning.
Here.
Mr. Moon.
Here.
Mr. Mulligan.
Here.
Mayor Condrey.
Here. Okay, so we're going to start with citizen comments, and we're starting with those that were emailed in prior to the meeting. And all of this is in conjunction with Ohio, the House Bill 197 that allows people to do this. I don't know if this will be a permanent thing or not, the emailing of comments. We can talk about that later, but I know that it's okay now. So Amy's going to read those in first. I understand there's quite a few, so we'll have some patience. And all of these are subject to the 3-minute rule as well. Is that correct?
Yes. And I apologize, but there's no way I can hear you with a mask on. This first message is from, can you hear me? Mm-hmm. Matt Roll. In comparison to the general public, you consider me an expert in aviation and airport operations. I have a degree in aerospace engineering. I am a former flight instructor turned airplane captain based in Columbus, Ohio, with thousands of flight hours. In addition, I'm a licensed skydiver who received the majority of my training from Start Skydiving. I understand this industry. At the time of my skydive training in Middletown, I was a flight instructor and had a good idea of what safe operations were at airports and was drawn to the 2-hour drive from Columbus because I felt that safety was clearly a priority there. I had closer options. When I heard the location of the new landing area, I felt I had to write my opinion to the council. This landing area will undoubtedly cause a major safety issue for pilots, their passengers, and skydivers of all experience levels. The traffic patterns will directly be in conflict with each other. This change is asking for an accident. You have to keep in mind that you can have a student skydiver with, say, 5 skydives under their belt and a student yet to be licensed pilot of an airplane flying in that traffic pattern. For both of these students, their priority oftentimes is not to look out for a skydiver or airplane as they are task saturated with landing and somewhat tunnel visioned. While this would be a worst case scenario for collision avoidance, you could easily still have a collision hazard with a commercial pilot and a skydiving instructor. The flight paths are just in way too close proximity. The old established landing zone did not have this risk, and Start Skydiving's safety record is a testament to the system working as it should. This is in addition to emergency vehicle response times increasing at the new landing zone. I urge at a minimum that this landing zone be reviewed by the FAA, AOPA, the Aircraft Owners and Pilots Association, and the USPA, the United States Parachute Association, if not just reversed entirely. It appalls me that a major life-threatening decision was made without at least consulting experts from relevant organizations for a thorough review. COVID-19 is no excuse not to go through this process. Thank you for your hard work and for reading my concerns. The second one is from Joseph Cox, the writer, director, and producer of Average Joe's Films. I'm appalled that City Council would treat a local business this way. When my company teamed up with the Middletown PD for the lip sync video, the response from the people was amazing, and it inspired me to follow things in my hometown much closer. The more I see, the more ashamed I get. The way the airport is being handled and the way the skydives are being treated is exactly according to the plans Doug Adkins had in place. And that's the key, Doug Adkins. If I recall properly, the citizens called for his firing, and you, the council, heard us loud and clear. Did you think we were just upset over his behavior at Triple Moon? We were also unhappy with his direction in this city. I think the city made it clear with the mayoral turnover. The mayor is seen as a public figurehead for everything that happens in the eyes of the casual citizen. Middletown sent a message in November. We don't want the same old story. We want change. The status quo is not acceptable. Bright past, brighter future? Well, it's time to take that seriously and stop bullying this successful business and get to the negotiating table with them. I don't want to be ashamed to be a Middletonian, but you're getting mighty close. The next comment is from Aaron Hune. Middletown Council members, I have struggled with the decision of whether or not to write you all to share my input regarding the suggested move of the skydiving drop zone to the Middletown Airport. I have spoken to many individuals, reviewed news articles, and reviewed the recorded city council meetings that was completed on May the 5th. With such information, I now believe my input is valuable and should be considered. I am a Michigan resident with a strong passion and an even greater respect for skydiving. I began my skydiving journey in August of 2019 in Michigan at a drop zone located just outside of the city of Jackson. Due to the fall climate here in Michigan, specifically the colder autumn temperatures, increased clouds, and the variable winds, the chances of being able to complete skydive decreases significantly as the months of September and October arrive. Between November and March, the skydiving season is closed. As a new member in the sport, September 19, I had a strong motivation and a desire to continue jumping as much as possible and successfully achieve my A license. To do so means completing the necessary requirements to graduate from student status. It means proving to instructors that you understand the basics of skydiving and can do so in a safe manner. Mid-October 2019, I made my first trip to start skydiving at the Middletown Airport, accompanied by a fellow skydiving instructor from Michigan. I was informed that Start Skydiving was a reputable business with a large separate landing area for students and that safety was their top priority. These were all major factors I took into consideration when deciding whether or not to travel to Middletown. As a student skydiver, we are taught from day one that skydiving is about risk mitigation and doing everything we can to reduce risk and promote safety for ourselves and others. I am very happy to say that I received my A license in November of 2019, and this would not have been possible without Start Skydiving in Middletown. During the several trips to Start Skydiving, we stayed at a local hotel, dined at local restaurants, and visited other small businesses. I now had a drop zone that I felt comfortable to travel in and had a plan to do so for every upcoming spring and fall season. Please note, this was an approximate 306-mile drive one way from St. John's, Michigan, that I was willing to make repeatedly every year. I think that says a lot about what Start Skydive has to offer and how they operate their business. With the suggested and now city-approved move of the Start Skydiving landing area, I, as well as many others, share real concerns about the safety of skydivers and pilots. Looking at the map at the airport, I can see how the northwest area may initially appear like a great location for a landing area. It is indeed away from the tarmac, but then again, why is that of concern? There have never been any incidents regarding a skydiver crossing the tarmac, whether by foot or under canopy.
That's the 3-minute mark.
Okay. The next comment is from Rob Stanley. I am unable to be there for the council meeting, so I wanted to address the topic in an email, and I have read it and have it read out loud. I live in Liberty Township, and I've come to Middletown and spend my money for one reason: Start Skydiving. You have a bright present and future in front of you with Start. Many people come to Middletown and spend money on other businesses for the same reason I do. Just like me, many of those people would never come to Middletown otherwise. If you want to be the council that cuts millions of dollars in commerce, the people will know, and so will the business owners that you are impacting. In terms of safety, the moving of the landing area is a fool's game. The current landing area is extremely safe and is proven to be for all involved. It does not inhibit anything, and it divides traffic patterns appropriately. The new landing area, as well as the others that were proposed, are quite simply unsafe. They are unsafe for pilots and jumpers, and I respect that there is a thought you can do things any better, but you are creating a problem when everything worked perfectly before. If any of you had aviation experience, this would never have become a thought. Please listen. As a jumper with over 2,500 skydives and someone who works in aviation, I'm telling you that you're making a massive mistake in terms of safety as well as economically. The next comment is from Russ Beckner. As a lifelong citizen of Middletown and growing up just 3 blocks away from the airport, I consider it one of the highlights of this city. My concern is that it continues to be one of the spots Middletown is known for. One, being an airport that pilots feel safe and are safe. Not only both the paved and the grass runways, but all taxiways are up to all hangars. Being an airport that parachutists can feel safe and be safe. Being in compliance with all FAA rules. Maintaining historical buildings such as the Warbird Museum, and they may not be disturbed or removed. The museum is a tourist attraction that should not be lost. There is an abundance of playing fields at Smith Park. It would help maintain the overall safety at the airport. There should be no problem with annexing a small adjoining section to the airport. The next comment is from Tom Spielman. Dear Mayor and City Council members, as I am a commercial pilot, FAA certified air boss and concerned citizen for safety, I'm sending you this letter regarding the recent developments of moving Start Skydiving location drop zone at the Middletown Airport. First, as pilots, we are trained to see and avoid any issue that may interfere with the safe operation of the airplane. That said, I have landed many times at Middletown during Start activities and had no problems or issues with the current drop zone area. As a matter of fact, the Start pilots are most courteous and the skydivers are aware of the other aircraft on the ground and in the sky. Second, though I cannot speak on behalf of the FAA, I can express my concerns over the safety of moving the drop zone to the other end of the airport. The area proposed is, in my opinion, the worst place it could be. The skydivers will be in an area where the pilots and planes are on a crucial part of the landing phase. This is an area of aircraft operation where the pilot must perform several duties at once, including engine performance, landing gear, speed, timing, and communication. There is no time for the pilot to be dodging skydivers. Lastly, given these unsafe circumstances to Start, you have left Start with no choice but to seek operations elsewhere. I do not understand why any city council would run a thriving business out of town, especially a business like Start. Start brings in thousands of customers and visitors from all over the United States and the world. Start, along with Team Fast Tracks, is recognized worldwide as a premier skydiving venue. As a comparison, you pushing Start out of Middletown would be like removing Graceland from Memphis. The notoriety and good press that Start gives Middletown is immeasurable. Therefore, I ask that the mayor and city council members to revoke their decision and to reinstate the Start drop zone. The next comment is from Dave Westrich. I am writing concerning Start Skydiving and the new landing zone proposed by the City of Middletown leaders. I have seen the proposed changes, and I think it would definitely put skydivers and pilots at risk for collisions. We, as skydivers, must follow certain landing patterns as outlined in the United States Parachute Association's Skydivers Information Manual, and it would be impossible to follow USPA's safety procedures given the locations of the runway and the proposed landing zones. I am respectfully asking that you reconsider the proposed change into the landing area for the safety of pilots and skydivers alike. I'm also sure that you are aware of the economic impact a business like this has on the community. It would be a shame to force such a great business out of Middletown. The next comment is from Tammy Ballinger. I think it's bad enough that before this COVID stuff, small businesses were having a hard enough time, and now you want to stick your nose in this business with no regard or even a thought of how this would affect the safety of the skydivers. Shame on you, Middletown, for once again putting politics first and people last. The next comment is from Ian von Schierschmidt. I would like to thank the City of Middletown Council, City Management, and the Economic Development. I would like for the City of Middletown City Council, City Management, and the Economic Development Department to take a step back and realize the negative impact of safety for all users of the airport, city revenue, local small business, grant, and tax spending that moving MWO's drop zone locations would cause. What is your plan of action in hearing the multitude of free, accredited resources in this specific field and unheard voices of the business owners and citizens of Middletown, Ohio? How will you answer for negative revenue and the possibility of loss of life caused by your uninformed decisions? The current drop zones for this business do not interfere with decades of future developments, and given the impeccable decade of safety that the current drop zone area to all users of MWO, they should remain exactly where they are. The current drop zones offer the safest separation of traffic for skydivers and pilots and do not interfere with future developments. Moving these drop zones from the current locations would slash the business's income and the city's revenue from them in half and risk killing a local business that has contributed to this city in more ways than anyone could imagine. Start Skydiving attracts and retains tens of thousands of clients, those which patronize our local restaurants, bars, carryouts, small shops, lodging, fuel and convenience stores, ride sharing, and tourism. Start Skydiving and Team Fast Tracks have a massive, consistent economic development for Middletown, although this local business is being suppressed by irresponsible decision-making and spending. Why would Middletown hinder such an already deeply rooted asset and key revenue generator for no reason? Why would our city council, city management, and economic development here in Middletown, Ohio go against proven safety and turn a blind eye and offer deaf ears to experts in the field, even when the recommendations are free? Why would they move ahead with such a controversial plan during a pandemic where business owners and public were not reasonably able to be heard? I want a Middletown, Ohio where I'm proud of my city and the people are proud of their leaders for making good, informed decisions that affect us all in a positive way. I'm calling on the council and management of Middletown, Ohio to bring this discussion back to the table, enable peer-to-peer accountability, and hear everyone that would like to be heard. This way, the council, acting city manager, and economic development department have handled this matter brings me to the question of their ethical and legal obligations, as well as all future decisions for our city and business community. Thank you. The next comment is from Samantha Schindler. Ladies and gentlemen, this is in regard to the proposed changes to the drop zone from a PH in public safety. I must add my voice to those of dissent against the proposed changes to the skydiving drop zone. As a PhD in public safety and service leadership, I must voice my concern that the proposed drop zones are not, in fact, as safe as the ones currently operating at the airport. I have a decade of skydive experience and a coach's rating to back up this opinion. I was also an Air Force officer in my previous career and know a little bit about airport and airspace operation. The landing areas are the way they are so that skydivers of varying abilities and disciplines do not collide and do not cross the runway under 1,000 feet. Remember, this is not a 2D image you are looking at, but a 3D one. The proposed changes match the landing areas for different experiences and disciplines together in an unsafe manner. This proposed handling zone manipulation is highly unusual, and I am not sure what you're attempting to accomplish in doing so. I'm disappointed the city would seek to make this viable, revenue-generating businesses unsafe, and by adopting these measures, you are in essence saying you do not support skydiving in Middletown. Should a governing body such as the FAA, the Airport Administration, or any other institution, media or otherwise, request my expert opinion on the matter, I will not hesitate to give it. The next comment is from David Pierce. Council members, I would like to share what I believe will be a few of the impacts to the community when Start Skydiving leaves Middletown as reported by the Journal News. Middletown will lose the positive identity of being a skydiving city. Middletown will lose its largest tourism draw of 60,000 to 80,000 visitors each year, which equates to $6 to $8 million in economic impact. Businesses such as restaurants and hotels will be impacted. The biggest loser will be its residents, nonprofits, and other organizations because of the investments that Start Skydiving makes to create a positive impact on the community. For example, I can tell you firsthand that the Ohio Challenge entertainment experience will never be the same without the skydivers falling from the sky with the American flag and the pyrotechnic displays. In addition, the event will be financially strained. There are not enough companies willing and able to sponsor community events to fill the gap, especially over the next 2 to 3 years as the economy recovers from COVID-19. However, the impact will extend well beyond the Ohio Challenge. Start Skydiving performs over 40 free jumps annually for churches, golf outings, and nonprofits such as Hops in the Hangar, Audubon Homes, and the Ohio Challenge. Start Skydiving contributes thousands of dollars in gift cards to nonprofits to support raffles and silent auctions. And lastly, Start Skydiving engages with special needs children by providing life experiences and sponsoring their annual Christmas dance. I believe there will be a negative trickle-down impact felt across the city. The other topic I want to address is the safety issue, which I think is being misplayed. The city has repeatedly said that safety is a high priority. Here are some facts that have been presented. Start Skydiving has been trained by the U.S. military and are considered experts in skydiving. They continue to state the newly approved drop zone is high risk and unsafe. At the February 18th council meeting, Paul McGowan from the FAA stated the original drop zone is the safest zone compared to the other zones that were proposed. Lastly, Start Skydiving has performed about 500,000 jumps at Hook Field, and not once has the drop zone been identified as the cause of an accident. How can anyone say with a straight face that the zone is unsafe? I think facts are stubborn. I believe in the importance and value of having a long-term strategic plan, but it must be balanced against achieving today's results. In this case, I believe the city has it wrong. I'm going to take a drink of water.
You're doing great, Amy, thank you.
The next comment is from Jonathan Hess. Dear members of Middletown City Council, the decision of where you place a skydiving landing area has life and death implications. If the nature or location of the landing area creates a safety risk, injuries, fatalities, and potentially loss of aircraft or other collateral are inevitable. For this reason, I would consider it irresponsible to make this decision without the comprehensive safety information from industry experts who can offer guidance separate from other factors that may weigh into this decision, like municipal development. As a skydiver, I absolutely will not jump at a As a skydiver, I will absolutely not jump at a drop zone where I have safety concerns. I like to bring guests to do tandems at Start Skydiving, and I hope to bring 3 new first-time course students to Middletown this summer. If I have safety concerns, I will take my business and my guests to a different location where I'm comfortable that the risks are reasonable. I would request that you make safety a top priority in this decision and that you base your decision on the impartial safety recommendations from industry experts. An external safety review from the FAA seems essential to me. The next comment is from Sean Askren. My name is Sean Askren. I own and operate Askren hot air balloons based out of MWO, and I'm an airport hangar leasee. As a balloon pilot that operates and utilizes the airport and airspace with Start Skydiving, as I have for many years, I can assure you that there has never been one issue with regard to Start Skydiving or any of the skydivers, whether it be safety or obstruction of the use of the airport. When the balloons are operated at the airport, we are often all over parts of the airport and have never had one complaint from any other type of aircraft coming in or going out of the airport. Balloons and skydivers operate the same way and communicate with all aircraft by the way of radio communication. I feel very strongly that Start Skydiving is being pushed out because of personal agendas of past and current city employees, misinformed members of council, and last but not least, the airport manager. As a committee member for the Ohio Challenge, I am the FAA pilot liaison for all balloons that attend the challenge. I work directly with the FAA and the staff at Start Skydiving for several months prior to each event, and I have a very well-respected relationship with everyone at our local FISDO. In the 15 years that I've been working at the FAA, there has never been one negative word said about any skydiving operations at the airport. Trouble escalated when the new airport manager was hired and certain council members were erroneously convinced that the skydivers were a problem. As a professional balloon pilot that travels around the United States, Mexico, and Europe, and is the FAA liaison at many events throughout the country, I am able to work in conjunction with Start Skydiving at many of these events. I can tell you that there has never been one complaint by any official or FAA representative in any of these cities or events. The Albuquerque Balloon Fiesta is one of the largest events in the world, and Start Skydiving jumps into the event with hundreds of thousands of people 3 times a day for 10 days, and there has never been one complaint or safety issue. I have heard all the arguments and all the numbers and believe that the city will be losing revenue, that it will never be able to be recovered. All due to a few egos rather than reality, and rather than looking for legitimate ways to grow the airport in a manner that will benefit all, and especially for the benefit of the city. I personally feel that the measures being taken to move the drop zone are a mistake on council's part, and believe that the landing zone and operation of the skydivers does not remain the same, that the city of Middletown and the airport will suffer greatly. Thank you for your time. The next comment is from Grace Cadiz. I am unable to attend in person the meeting tonight, but I saw that I could write an email and request that it be read in my absence. I am a resident living near Smith Park and the airport. My comment is as follows. As a resident who lives very close to the airport and the current landing zone, I took interest in the topic at hand because I felt disappointed that there was a possibility of Start Skydiving would move to a different location if the current landing zone was moved. Personally, finding concrete information and transparency on the matter was very hard, as it seems there are very different sides to the story. I don't have any actual relation to the airport nor the skydivers, but I wish somehow the city would come together for a better alternative that allows safety but also keeps Start Skydiving in Middletown, because I believe it's a great asset to the city. I remember purchasing this house we live in and being so amazed watching the skydivers or air shows from my backyard, and being so honored to live so close by and witness people having fun in our city. We have family that live out of country who visit us and got to see it all in person, and to this day they still talk about it. My daughter with special needs loves watching it too. With this, my point is that it brings people's attention to our city. It allows locals a chance to have an adventure close to home and bring others to our town. I hope that everyone can come together for a better solution in the time that we need it most. The next comment is from Joe Nicholson. My name is Joe Nicholson, and I've been a skydiver for 28 years. I've also been a private pilot for 28 years as well. I am current in both of these activities. I want to start by saying that I strongly disagree with the new landing zone at the Middletown Airport due to the hazards it creates. During this lockdown the past 2 months, I have flown into Middletown Regional Airport a couple of times. Each time I set up for a landing on runway 23, which has a right-hand pattern to minimize noise over the city. The pattern altitude is 1,600 feet. I located the new landing area and quickly realized that it is directly in the downtown leg. No. I'm going to read that again. I located the new landing area and quickly realized that it is directly in the downwind leg for both runways. When skydivers are setting up for a landing, they are at the same altitude and location on the field where planes will be converging, setting up to land. There is an obvious increase in potential for collision. Also, with the original landing zone, there was no significant separation between different skill levels. Okay, and I read that wrong too. I'm going to start again, I'm sorry. Also, with the original landing zone, there was a significant separation between different skill levels, which is the best setup a drop zone could have. With the new landing area, all levels of skydivers were being forced to converge in the same place, which is an obvious hazard as well. I will support my skydiving family at Start, but I have huge safety concerns with the new landing area. I can't understand the logic for the change. Based on my experience with skydiving and flying for 28 years, I hope the new landing area is significantly increasing. I feel that the new landing area is significantly increasing the chances for a tragic collision, and I sincerely hope that does not happen. I have about 8 more.
Keep it up, Amy, you got it.
The next comment is from Brett Dennis, 626 Howell Road, Middletown. City Council members, I implore you to reconsider any plans which will drive Start Skydiving out of our city or to compromise the safety of jumpers should Start Skydiving remain. I've been a Middletown resident my entire life and an occasional fun jumper since 2006. And having been a producer at TV Middletown for 13 years, I intimately watched this city go from grim to great, in my opinion. Much of that great had to do with a drop zone moving to Middletown, not just a drop zone, but the people and culture that came with it. I haven't sat down with the consultants that you have, nor have I seen the list of prospects you're considering while you attempt to plan out the airports and the city's future. I don't know all the ins and outs or the layers involved. I'm just a lifelong Middletonian with a common sense perspective on where the city has been, where it is now, and where it is headed. Through a literal lens, I've watched the city struggle, fight, claw, cry, fail, prevail, succeed, prosper, dance, love, rock out, fall down, get back up again, and do it all over again. With that in mind, a sense of history in my gut, I believe that flipping the script on Start Skydiving and the repercussions that will ensue will leave this city in a hole that we can't bury in a hole that we couldn't buy ourselves out of, even if our pockets were kissing the floor. When you're in Monroe, Westchester, Lebanon, Dayton, or Cincinnati, you can't look up on a sunny summer day and see an American flag bigger than most people's backyards floating down. You can't look up in any of those cities and see something that makes you feel the reverence for the human spirit in bravery, beauty, and discipline. In Middletown, we can look up and feel something, and I wouldn't bet on anything other than certainty when considering the cost-benefit of driving that away. As a skydiver with a modest number of jumps at the Middletown Airport, 40 plus, I would not look forward to the new landing area, and usually a feeling of relief follows the sight of a good canopy over your head, and now that feeling will have to wait until our feet are on the ground. As a resident, I want to see those parachutes in the sky. I want to see the flags, the pyrotechnics, and the people traveling to our town to have one of the two best experiences I'll ever have. The energy, positivity, culture, and beauty, and the impact of skydiving being in our backyard cannot be overstated. Please do what you can to keep this one simple, amazing piece of the Middletown puzzle untainted. The next comment is from Terry Moore, and I'm going to read it as it's written. Move to Fruita, Colorado, so quit jumping, but John has put lots of money and time on improvements into the airport. I think most of private plane owners renting hangars would show up to speak or protest since these upgrades help them when like hangars painted. Many local stores and eats will suffer. Vote these fools out. All personal, not for good of town. I spent 7 years, 3 days in your town from New Albany, Indiana. Many others feed your town with taxes and money. So this is a long one, so you'll have to let me know when I hit the 3-minute mark.
Sounds good.
This comment is from Kevin Dubas, a member of Team Fast Tracks and an active skydiver at Start Skydiving located at the Middletown Airport. Although I'm not a resident of Middletown, I visit Start Skydiving multiple times every week. I've been actively following the discussions of moving the landing areas for skydivers at the airport. I've also watched the city council meeting during which the council voted to relocate the landing areas, and I'm gravely concerned for my safety, the safety of other skydivers and pilots who will be landing at the airport following your decision. In the presentation given during the meeting, the city council specifically listed the priorities in this decision. Ms. Cohen's words were, and I quote, "I'm looking at whether or not we need to move these runways. I look at a few different things. First is the size, second is the cost, and third is the operation and safety concerns." I believe she meant to say the landing areas rather than runways in this comment, so I will base my comments on that assumption. By your words, you're saying that safety is your fourth concern. You obviously have no experience either flying or skydiving, because if you did, you would know that safety is always our first concern, not our fourth. Had you bothered to really discuss this with any pilots that regularly fly into Middletown Airport, with those who jump at Start Skydiving, you would know this. Your lack of real priorities and rash decision-making is unbelievably dangerous. Both skydivers and pilots fly a regular and predictable pattern as they are approaching a landing. Everyone that makes a skydive at Start is instructed not to cross the end of the runway below 2,000 feet and not to cross the main section or center of the runway below 1,000 feet. This is to ensure that no skydivers will interfere with airplanes taking off or landing at the airport. By moving the landing area to your option 3 area, you are now instructing skydivers to fly their canopies in the most dangerous possible area near the end of the runway. Why would you do this? If there was an injury during a landing in your newly designated area, rescue vehicles will have a very difficult time reaching an injured person in your newly designated landing area. As it is now, the farthest area from the point of entry to the airport, and the ground will not support a heavy vehicle. It is obvious that you have not discussed it with the local fire and paramedic authorities. I would like to know why you are making decisions that can affect the safety and health of those you claim to represent without consulting with those who will respond in the case of an emergency. Maybe it is because safety is your 4th priority. During the council meeting last week, Ms. Nitti made a statement concerning the proposed landing area move. If it doesn't work, gosh, I guess we'll have to go back to the drawing board again. This is an unbelievable statement of naivety and ignorance. Is it really going to take someone getting seriously injured or killed for the city council to understand that the new landing area is dangerous and that it won't work? It is clear to me that the Middletown City Council is... If that could just a little bit earlier, that'd been nice, but... Okay, the next comment is from Rich Beavis.
You can use some of my time, so you can finish that comment. That's fine, I think.
With that, I guess, before we got to our in-person comments, I wanted to just take a moment to ask for the comment guidelines to be read out loud, and to also request an amendment to those rules and guidelines that states that I'd like to request an amendment to the rules to clarify that the individual who submits a comment card is the only person allowed to speak during their allotted 3 minutes. They do not have to use their full 3 minutes, but they may not yield their remaining time to anyone else. And I say this because I believe that it's important clarification to make. I would like, I think it's important that council has an opportunity to hear from as many individuals as possible, and when people start yielding their time, it makes that difficult.
Ben, do we have any
person would get
guideline on that?
Would get their 3 minutes, but they would not be able to yield that time.
Okay, can I have that copy of the comment, and I'll send you the comment.
We're gonna need the people in the gallery to be quiet. And there's a question to Mr. Yoder, if you would.
I didn't catch your full question. Can you ask?
Yeah, Ben, are you able to confirm, Ms. Nitti, what she quoted and what we are able to do as council? And
It's a majority rule of council. However you all want to proceed in terms of accepting public comment, it is lawful to restrict it to 3 minutes and not allow yielding. If you want to allow yielding, if you want to make it however you want in that regard.
I'm simply asking that we not allow yielding of comments, and that we hold each citizen to their individual 3 minutes.
Okay, so what I understand from our legal guidance is that if we as a majority of council decide that that's what we want to do, then we have the right to decide that. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay, so Monica, I would assume that you're motioning that we do not allow people to yield their minutes to
I would like
other
to do that,
individuals.
yes.
Okay, do I have a second? Okay, the motion has been turned down.
So that begs the question, then do I finish reading this comment?
I would say, let me, do we have a name for the card that we would like to,
Well, the next person is Rich Beavis. Is that who called out?
I do not.
Mr. Hart, are you asking that the remainder of the email be read for the next 3 minutes in lieu of your comments?
Not in lieu of, but you can use the time whatever it takes to decide.
Oh, okay, I think that was a different topic.
Out the remainder of that 3 minutes? Okay.
Okay, I'm gonna keep going.
Thank you.
It is clear to me that the Middletown City Council is not concerned with consulting the true experts in this matter and that the safety of skydivers and pilots is not important. The Middletown City Council and the Airport Commission have spent thousands of taxpayer dollars with Quadex Aviation, a third-party consulting agency which has been influenced in this decision. Also is quoted on the May 8, 2020 in Journal News article that the FAA and the United States Parachute Association standards were also being reviewed. Why was no one from the FAA and the United States Parachute Association actually consulted before making this decision? Are they not the authority in such decisions? Quadridex Aviation is a consulting firm, not an authority. The FAA and the USPA would have gladly given guidance on this matter at no charge to Middletown taxpayers. But not to worry, I am quite sure you will be hearing from them soon. Also in the News Journal article from May 8th, the council is quoted as having consulted with the owners of Skydiving when formulating your decision. However, John Hart II also states in his same article that he was never consulted. John Hart II and John Hart III had created a presentation that they wished to share with the city council and had requested a time to do so. However, the council never granted permission for this presentation to be heard in public. Why is that? Why would you intentionally not want input from the single largest revenue producer at the airport? Ms. Cohen is quoted as saying, "This is a matter about utilizing the airport as an asset for the entire community and the development interest. There is enough land in this asset to work with everyone and develop a community airport that provides recreational opportunities, retail opportunities, and complex aviation opportunities. If you are not consulting with Start Skydiving, the FAA, the USPA, local fire and rescue authorities, and other stakeholders at the airport, you are not working with everyone. It is obvious that your intention is to drive Start Skydiving and its operations out of Middletown and take the millions of dollars that this company brings to the city elsewhere. You claim this is not the case, but your actions certainly do not support this claim. The actions taken by the City Council last week are ignorant, dangerous, and based on incomplete information. You have demonstrated a lack of desire to work with interested parties, stakeholders, true authorities, and emergency response personnel. Your decision to move these landing areas is putting lives in danger, and if there is an injury or death because of your decision, that blood will be on your hands, Mrs. Skank. I would highly encourage you to look at other municipal airports if you want to see how working with everyone actually works. One such example is the Deland Municipal Airport in Deland, Florida. This public airport is home base to over 160 aircraft and has a main runway of 6,001 feet long. By comparison, KMWO is home to 66 aircraft.
That's another 3 minutes.
Okay. The next comment is from Rich Beavis. Middletown City Council, I would like to address the painful issue that has existed between the city staff and Start Skydiving Team Fast Tracks. I would like to shed some light on the issue since I was involved with both parties since the beginning. In 2007, AK moved their headquarters out of Middletown to Westchester. AK was quick to move their corporate jet to the Butler County Airport. At this time, my wife and I owned and operated B&B Aero Services, which was the fixed base operator and fuel supplier for all aircraft at the Middletown Airport. AK was the only corporate aircraft operating out of Middletown at that time. This created a huge deficit in our fuel sales. AK purchased between 50 and 70,000 gallons of fuel per year at a price of roughly $5 per gallon. Looking around this city, it was obvious that there was no other corporations here that would replace AK, much less own any kind of aircraft. There were zero corporate users at the airport, and the future was bleak. I contacted Start Skydiving and tried to persuade them to move to Middletown. They had just completed a large renovation at the Warren County Airport and were not interested at that time in moving. In 2008, I became the airport manager and worked hard to bring in aviation business to Middletown. I, along with many volunteers, put together a large air show for Middletown in order to let the world see that Middletown was a viable, vibrant airport. After that show, we had several businesses move to Middletown Airport. The Harvey Gillum Aircraft, the Butler County Sheriff's Aviation Department, Higher Ground Helicopters, Royal Air Cargo, the Middletown Regional Flight School, to name a few. All of these businesses moved here from other airports, and the things were looking good. I continued to contact Start Skydiving with the hope of moving them here. In 2009, I contacted Start Skydiving again after they had performed at the Ohio Challenge. I was very impressed with their safety and professionalism. I wanted them here. After the Ohio Challenge, they called me back and they said they were interested in moving. They came over and we had multiple meetings and we were able to start moving forward with them. We then brought the FAA, USPA, the Middletown Engineering Department, they were running the airport then, our airport consultant company, and the city law department, fire department, and many others. We mapped out the landing zones, hangar arrangements, parking, traffic flow, etc. By the fall, a lease was drawn up and it was signed off by city council, the city manager, and the law department. In this lease, the city was obligated to build a 10,000 square foot addition to the hangar that was designated for Start Skydiving. The city was only to build the shell and Start Skydiving would complete the rest. It was to be fitted with classrooms, training rooms, and a restaurant. All interior work
3
was...
minutes.
Take my 3 minutes. Can't tell her.
All interior work was to be at the expense of Start Skydiving. This shell was to be completed over the winter months and scheduled to be open the next spring in time for the skydiving season. At the same time, Gilman aircraft sales were in the hangar we were going to put the skydiving team in. John Hart and Team Fast Tracks paid over $50,000 to build out new, beautiful office space in the Jets hangar for Gilman aircraft to reside in. Not the city, but John Hart's own cash. Will the city manager decide not to build the shell? We tried everything to get her to move on this. This puts Start Skydiving in a horrible situation. They had no place to go or operate their business. Mind you, there was a legal lease that was obligated the city to build the addition. 2010, the city manager moved the airport from the control of Public Works Engineering to the Economic Development Department. Mind you, this department had no idea how to run an airport. I was told by then Economic Development employee that he was here to remove Start Skydiving from the airport. This man hassled Start Skydiving until his dismissal from his job after a very public incident involving a city council member. 2011, I sold the fixed base operation fuel services to Start Skydiving, and they began operating and continued operations until December of 2019. They remodeled the FBO and spent many dollars landscaping around the airport. They paid to paint the large FBO hangar and the skydiving hangar. Not city dollars, but their money. Still no help from the city manager. 2012, now the city hired a new economic guy who is marching to the same orders, remove Start Skydiving. By this time, it was obvious that the city manager had no intention of being honorable and fulfilling the lease. Start Skydiving rented a large storage space above the FBO and spent tens of thousands of dollars creating classrooms, training rooms, etc. They allowed anyone, whether it was the airport commission, local groups, pilots, you name it, to use the facilities. 2012 to 2020. The city continues to hassle the group, as recently stated on the city manager's blog, but John Hart was difficult to work with. This attitude has been prevalent throughout the city hall for over a decade. I ask you, who is difficult to work with? The city of Middletown has been difficult to work with, not Start Skydiving. It is shameful how staff and council have treated a company that has done so much for this town. They have paid for fireworks, sponsored the Ohio Challenge, hops in the hangar, and so many more. Look up everything I've done and be honest and ask yourself why. It would be wise to set aside your previous decision to move the landing zones and to call together the following groups to work out reasonable solution to this problem. Remember, the original landing zones were deemed by the FAA at the time to be the best and safest location at the airport. So bring in the FAA, the Aircraft Owners and Pilots Association, the United States Parachute Association, start.
I'll yield. David Hart.
So the people that they want brought together, Start Skydiving, the city engineering, and the fire department. Local pilots and hangar tenants, and please stop the war and division and come together to fix this issue as soon as possible. The next comment is from Rachel Ellis. I'm not sure I'm saying this right. Rachel Ellisar. Dear citizens of Middletown and Middletown City Council members, I am writing you with concerns regarding the decision to move Start Skydiving landing zone at the Middletown Airport. I, along with a large number of Middletown citizens, fellow skydivers, both local and not, Middletown pilots and airport staff members, feel this decision was made preemptively and with little concern for the long-term impact that such changes could have on overall jumper safety and the economy of Middletown. Start Skydiving is a significant part of the Middletown community and has been for 13 years and has been operating at its current location. Over those 13 years, the Hart family has managed to build the skydiving community that extends far beyond the borders of Middletown. Not only have they introduced an exciting form of entertainment to the community, but they bring in skydivers and adventure enthusiasts from all over the surrounding areas. These jumpers drive for hours at a time to spend their weekends at Start, looking forward to the excitement of skydiving and the assurance of safety that Start has come to be known for. In doing so, these visitors, many of which would never consider coming to Middletown otherwise, significantly bolster other parts of the Middletown economy. Start Skydiving provides a service to the community, not just for its entertainment value, but the sense of community it recreates, but for the traffic it brings to local restaurants, bars, and shops, and for the ways that the Hart family continues to give back to those in the surrounding areas. Losing Start Skydiving in the community would have a devastating impact on Middletown, but changing the landing zone and jeopardizing our safety as jumpers would force that to happen. If safety for the members of your Middletown family, both in the sky and on the ground, is truly your utmost concern, I would like to formally request an FAA safety audit be conducted prior to any definitive decisions regarding the location of the Start landing area. Compliance with current safety regulations, as well as recent changes to airline safety, is obviously important, but so is the safety of every single person as a community we send up into the air. Changing the landing zone will jeopardize their safety and inevitably force the closure or relocation of an integral part of our Middletown community. Please don't let the death or injury of a skydiver be the evidence that you need to rethink this decision. Thank you for your time. Warm regards. The next one is from Ed Lytle. I have been the newsletter editor for Start Skydiving for almost 10 years. I also teach newer jumpers how to do complex skydiving formations. When jumping along with these newer people, I separate the landing area so they have plenty of room to land, and I can look closely to the hangars and get ready for the next group of jumpers. Making all of us land in the same small area will jeopardize the safety of all of us. The current landing areas give newer jumper plenty of room to set up for a landing without worrying about landing in the river or near one of the other hazardous obstacles. The next comment is from Dale Kierstead. As a frequent user and supporter of the Middletown Airport, I stand in opposition to moving Start Skydiving to another airport location. This opposition was more clearly expressed in an email letter to you and the other city council earlier. Please include this statement in my earlier email for record at tonight's meeting. I did not receive another email from him. This was all I received. The next one is from Keith Connell. Dear City Council of Middletown, I write this email with great concern regarding the planned moving of the current Start Skydiving landing zone at the Middletown Airport. I am certain you have received a considerable amount of feedback on this issue, and I as well would like the opportunity to briefly share my thoughts. I am currently an active skydiver at Start Skydiving and have been jumping there for the past 3 years, both tandem and fun jumps. I received my AFF training and license through Start Skydiving. Through my active time there may seem minimal, I consider Start Skydiving my skydiving home. I love the people, the facilities, and most important, the attention given to safety. It is by far the #1 priority of this organization. With that being said, in regards to the proposed move of the current landing zone area, I am very uncomfortable with this proposal for various reasons. 1, the overall safety of jumpers, instructors, tandem students, and pilots is being compromised. Downwind pattern encroachment is real and it's deadly. Skydivers with various levels of experience landing in a common close proximity area is never a good idea. Collisions happen and people get seriously injured or killed. Example, the recent death of a very experienced Team Fast Tracks member attempting to avoid a collision with a less experienced jumper in such an area. And number 3, the efficiency of Start's business will be severely impacted by the extreme distancing needing to be covered to return to the loading area. Please listen to the experts, the folks with years of skydiving experience and thousands of jumps, the pilots who know about pattern encroachment and its dangers. I am hopeful that a sound, safe resolution can be achieved regarding the situation that will benefit all. And the last emailed comment comes from, that was the last one. I printed that one twice.
Thank you, Amy, very much. Can we give Amy a round of applause? That was pretty impressive, thank you. Okay, we're gonna move on now to the comment cards, and I'll pull the ones.
This is Group B.
Great, I have names of the ones the 3 individuals. Okay, we'll call Brian Pangburn up, and we'll just ask you to state your full name and address for the record.
Now, before we get started, I have to try to
Oh, yes, and I believe,
figure this out, I'm sorry.
While she's doing that, could I ask, is there any pilots on the council? No?
is there a comment card from Kent Killer? I don't see one. No.
We don't have a comment card from Kent Keller, so I'm not sure.
Is anyone else who provided a comment card willing to give their time would be another option.
I have time remaining there. I would yield my time to Mr. Tagburn, David Hart, or to Ken Keller.
Okay, yep, I think there was still 2 minutes and 45 seconds left of the one that you gave. Is that acceptable to accommodate the? Okay, thank you.
I can't see.
Do it a slideshow.
Go ahead. I can't see on the screen and I can't see with my glasses, so I'm struggling.
All right, here we
Do
go.
you know how I go to the next one? Is it with this?
Yes, and you would click it, but the only problem is, that's, the computer's log here, and we thought it would reach, but it doesn't reach.
You want me to click, you want me to click it for you?
I'll be fine.
You be the clicker.
So if I say click, you can go to the next one.
I will do that.
Okay. All right, so are you ready?
Yep.
All right, so the NTSB has records since 1980 of all skydivers and aircraft collisions. These are the 3 from NTSB. Number 1, in 1993, a parachutist hit a plane. All 4 people in the airplane died. The parachutist lived. In 2001, the parachutist died. Aircraft lived. In 2005, the parachutist died. The aircraft lived. There was one other one that I found from 1970 that wasn't in the NTSB, where the aircraft people died and the skydiver lived. So it's a 50-50 chance if you have a collision. Go ahead and click. So here's from the National NOAA records from 1930 to 1996 on our wind information. So it gives us our mean wind speed, and then it's off the screen there. It also gives us maximum. Go ahead and click. This shows Dayton, which is our closest one. Winds are normally about 10 miles an hour from the west and the southwest. You can click to the next one. This shows a graphical for CVG Airport. You can see most of our winds come from the west and the southwest, which is why our runway runs 050 for the main runway, but most of them are the west and the southwest. Click, please. And this is for Dayton. You can see the same data, just a little bit stronger winds up at Dayton, but mostly out of the west and the southwest. Go ahead and click. So this is from the FAA Circular 150, which shows why skydiving near the runway is our safest option. The outside two circles there show where the patterns are for the aircraft that fly around the airport. And notice how far they say these aircraft traffic patterns are. They're 3,000 feet from the runway. So if you could click to the next one. This is our airport here. Go ahead and click. And then I've drawn a typical pattern right here. So when an aircraft takes off, they fly up to 300 to 500 feet, turn a right-hand turn if they're going the other way. It depends on which way they're going, but it's always away from the city. This is our traffic pattern. So go ahead and click to the next one. Our current landing area is right off of the runway. A parachute has a glide ratio of about 3 to 1, meaning for every 1,000 feet that we descend, we go forward about 3,000 feet, okay? So on a no-wind day, I drew our runway 6,000 feet. That circle is 3,000 feet in diameter. Okay, go ahead and click. If the wind starts going on an average day, we have to shift that circle 1,000 feet to the west. Click it again. If it's twice the average, or 20 miles an hour, we shift it another 1,000 feet. And so we start moving towards the west. Go ahead and click one more time. So if we want to go to where the end of this turf runway is, which incidentally is 3,000 feet long, that puts our landing area over where the FAA recommends our downwind leg is for aircraft.
Time?
Who's that? Okay. So on a no-wind day, if an aircraft goes 3,000 feet away from the runway, we're going to be directly intercepting. Most of the traffic, though, seems to follow the river here in Middletown. All right, go ahead and click one more time. But now, if the winds are 10 miles an hour, which is average, now we have what we call a potential convergence of the parachutists and aircraft. So now we have aircraft on downwind at 1,000 feet, right where the skydiver is going to be. Click one more time. And if we go on a double average day, 20 miles an hour, now we're almost putting us dead center where all the skydivers and the aircraft are going to be converging on this downwind leg. That's why 4 of the people that wrote in were aircraft pilots that were concerned. I'm an aircraft pilot as well. That's why we're concerned. Now you're going to be putting us right in the middle of all this flak. All these skydivers are going to be coming down.
You mind if I ask one question?
Yes, sir.
How far out is your downwind line there?
This one here is about a mile. The turf runway, if you can make it out on your deal there, is 3,000 feet long. The Middletown runway is 6,000 feet, so if you turn that over, it's about a mile where I drew it.
Okay.
And that's where most of us fly, is right along that river, to allow the skydivers distance.
Thank you.
Yes. Any other questions?
Can I ask one additional question?
Yes.
Would your analysis change if the X point was more towards the center of that, you see the triangle piece that you're...
The closer we get it to the runway, the safer we are as far as that traffic. Regardless, the letter that I wrote in, which didn't get read, I also said, if you are going to move it, you should put it in the FAA Airport Facility Directory, letting the pilots know, hey, now we're going to be in the way.
So the analysis would change if that X point moved to the center of that triangle area.
It would be safer.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Thank you.
Amy, you're going to have to come take this away.
Okay, I'm going to call up the next person while Amy's doing her magic. Mike Dirge.
How do I call it?
Your name and address for the record.
My name's Mike Dirge. I live at 322 Sonora Court, Wyoming, Ohio. I'm a private pilot and member of Team Fast Track. First, I'd like to address the issue that council members feel they have been personally attacked. You haven't. It's understandable. You might take it personally when many members of the public have voiced negative opinions about you. I'm not here to personally attack any member of the city council. To even the most casual observer, city council has a motive other than what they've made public for applying pressure to make Start Skydiving leave Middletown. I would hope you resolve whatever conflicts you have without intentionally increasing the risk of death or serious injury to Middletown residents and visitors. To pretend that a group of people who don't know the difference between a runway and a landing zone know more about safety than the staff of Start Skydiving and the professional skydiving members of Team Fast Tracks would be laughable if it didn't have such a dangerous consequence. Politicians with less than transparent motives have been around for millennia. In 360, Plato said, "This and no other is the root from which a tyrant springs. When he first appears, he is a protector." Please stop pretending that you're trying to protect us. I would ask you to initiate an official FAA safety review about moving the landing zones. Thank you for listening, and I yield the remaining 2.5 minutes to John Hart III.
Would you like me to give it back to you?
Yeah, have it.
All right. That'll help me with the minutes. Thank you.
Okay, I'm gonna call the next card, right, is that?
Yes.
Okay, sorry. Okay, Bridget LaHoy, I believe? LaJoy.
For starters, you have my mask down a little bit, but I'm not a pilot, I'm not smart. I'm a skydiver, I'm a mom of 5 kids and 3 grandkids, but I'm here to put a little bit of different support here for the skydivers. My name is Bridget LaJoy, 1832 North State Route 741 Franklin. Okay, I come from a long line of Middletonians. My grandfather, my uncles, my dad, my brother all worked at Armco Steel. My grandfather walked cattle from Claremont County all the way to West Middletown in the early 1900s. My grandfather was a painter and painted many houses in Middletown, including the cross on the steeple of Holy Trinity. My great uncle has a white cross dedicated to him in the Woodside Cemetery for having lost his life in World War II. Middletown is not unknown to me. My family and I reside in Warren County near the Warren County Airport. Start skydiving began there. Tandem skydivers would float over the top of our house. My husband would sit on the back porch and go, "Who would jump out of a perfectly good airplane?" 2 years later, he did. He was so excited and learned his A license. At first, I was nervous watching him skydive. It's not a nice feeling seeing your husband fall out of the sky. But once we got to know the team and watched that safety was their #1 concern and how knowledgeable they were, I was calm watching my husband. When we would have a party with other young families, Mr. Hart would arrange it so that a skydiver would land in the middle of our back field. This was the biggest hit, and we were the favorite family of the neighborhood because skydivers landed in our field on purpose with a demo. We have had 25 European exchange students at our house since 2014. Whoops. Many of them went tandem skydiving while they were here, I think with some of the ones here. The staff was always very kind to them, and the ones that were too young to skydive were always given a chance to ride in the front seat with the pilot. If we'd had any doubts about their safety, we would never have let them go. We knew the staff, and we knew that safety was priority. The exchange students' parents trusted us. One of the parents even came over last summer and went skydiving. Some of their comments when they heard that Start Skydiving's safety issue was in question were horrified. They wanted to come back in the next few years and do it again. They all were scared, but once they got to know the staff of Start Skydiving, they were relieved and they felt safe, and they went back to Europe and told all their friends about this great drop zone in Middletown, Ohio. One of them said, "Please ask the city council to consider Start Skydiving not as a financial issue, but as a great and unique team who needs a great, safe, and unique place to land." Okay, so these Europeans wrote those messages to me when they heard about the new safety concerns. The plane passing through where skydivers are falling is alarming. Not only to me, because my husband, who hasn't gone skydiving in a few years, but the fact that my husband and our Europeans who did all those tandem skydives, to now think that that's changing, we won't be able to allow them to do that. Some of the skydivers at Start Skydiving are retired military paratroopers. Mr. Hart is retired military. I trust his and the others' judgment. Who would know better than they? Retired military veterans who is safe and not. Thank you.
Thank you.
You were really good with the PowerPoint.
Next, I have Larry Compton.
Ready? All right, Larry Compton, 911 Providence Court, Trenton. Okay, so we'll come here, we've been addressing the safety issues, addressing as far as the new landing area. I was going to give the same talking points, the exact same layout that Brian had brought up, except he did it much better than me with the PowerPoint. So congratulations, Brian, thank you. Again, just to reiterate, our landing area, as it is, builds in that safety margin that we need. We drop from straight above the airport. Aircraft fly in from low approach on a glide angle. So just as Brian displayed, that's our safety barrier right there, okay? Point two I want to bring up. This decision to move our landing area affects our efficiency, okay? So I want to speak on behalf of 8 full-time staff members that we make a living. This is how we make a living, is we make this drop zone run. As tandem instructors, AFF instructors, professionally rated exhibition skydivers, okay? So, our current landing area, efficiency, okay? After we do our tandem skydives, we land where we are currently at. We do our post-jump brief with our students. We have easy access back to our hangar. We can drop our parachutes on the mat. We grab another parachute. Our next tandem passenger that has been trained and briefed, and we can be back on the airplane within about a 4-minute turnaround time. We strive for about 4 minutes, okay? So we need that efficiency. At this new LZ on the other side of the airport, can anybody tell me how long it's going to take us to get back to the airport? To get back on the airplane? Anybody got a number? Anybody have a time? Is it 4 minutes? No, it is not 4 minutes. Now what does that do? So what that does, that takes numbers off of us. We are instructors. We are not making the jumps that we usually do every day. We're taking money out of our pockets. Taking money every day, every week, every month. We have 6 months to make our yearly income, the bulk of it, okay? The rest of it is done on a weekend basis. With this new LZ proposal, we are now going to be able to make a living, a full-time professional living as professional skydivers. Now, is it fair that City Council can make an arbitrary decision that affects the business model, a working business model, an existing business that directly affects its staff, its employees, and how they earn their yearly income? I think there's a term called fiduciary responsibility that applies here. That you as elected officials have a responsibility to the citizens that elected you to office. Okay?
Time.
Sorry? Thank you.
Thank you. Cheryl Compton?
Yep. So you have a responsibility to those people who elected you to office, to that you do not impede their income. Is that correct? Okay. So this new business model does not work. So I would ask City Council to re-evaluate their decision. We've already heard all the safety aspects of this. Now let's look at the financial aspects of this, all the lives, all the instructors' lives that you're going to directly affect. Okay? Thank you.
I have Ray Miller.
Can she have your written comment?
Okay.
Good afternoon. My name is Ray Miller. I live at 4401 Brandon Lane. I've been here 24 years. I'm a pilot for almost 50 years. I've studied this thing ever since it came up. My question would be, are any of you people ever flown an airplane? You ever been a pilot?
This is not a time for questions, it's just for your statement.
Yes. So none of you have. We have here the most expert group of people that I know, and they have a record of safety unbeknownst. What an honor it is in Middletown to have the world's largest skydiving club. We're worldwide known, and you're doing something that can take that away from this city, and I chastise you for that. I voted for most of you, and right now I would wonder why I did on some of you. This city has the honor to have the greatest skydiving club in the world here. Now, John Hart and his people have been doing the flying longer than most of you have been alive. They're ex-military. They're paratroopers. You think they don't know where the safest place to land is? Why would you think that any of you have enough knowledge or experience to question their opinion? That's about all I have to say. I'm proud of the city. I've only been here 24 years, but I vote and I recruit voters. And I want you to think of that when you try to run the best company I've met in person out of this town. I have a great influential group of people that vote. I voted for most of you. But right now I'm wondering why, and some of you. This man, John Hart, has my complete and absolute trust in where in the hell to land his paratroopers. And I don't think any of you have the right to question that with no more knowledge than you have in what we're trying to do here. I appreciate every one of you. I thank you very much for your service. You're doing a great job on everything but this. Think about all of this information you've heard from people that know what they're talking about to a group of people that don't have an idea. You couldn't tell me the difference between a Piper, an Cessna, or a jet plane. One thing I ask you to do is back up, let this man decide where he's supposed to land his paratroopers. It's been safe for all the years he's been here.
Thank you.
And you're trying to put him someplace it may or may not.
Would you like more time, Ray?
Yes, I would like some more time.
Okay.
This company has brought to Middletown an honor that no other city in the United States has. Think of that. Middletown, little bitty podunk town in Ohio. They have the world's largest skydiving club. My son is a colonel in Special Forces. He can tell me more about this group of people than I could ever imagine. The military supports them in every way that they can. These guys are all ex-military. They're experts at what they're doing. They're bringing in millions of dollars into this city. And for whatever reason beyond me, is that any of you would think you have the right to tell them where to land their people. I thank all of you for being in the council and your hard work, but I don't think you're thinking properly here today. Thank you very much.
If anyone does have notes that they're willing to share with Ms. Skank, it helps her in producing our minutes. I think I heard her ask.
Especially with the mask, it's very hard to hear everyone on the tape. So if you could give me your notes, like I say, that'll make sure that your comments are accurately reflected in the minutes. Otherwise, I'm trying to listen to the tape with everyone wearing a mask.
I have Brian Marsloff next.
Brian Marslow, 793 Hoop Road. I'm not here today to discuss the problems moving the parachute landing area. You're already hearing more than enough about that. Sorry. I'm not here today to discuss the problems of moving the parachute landing area. You're going to hear enough about that. There are safety concerns, financial concerns, all that. I see another problem that's led us all into this situation. I believe that City Council has been set up to take the blame for the decision to move the landing area, and I don't think that's fair. It isn't right for council members to have protesters at their businesses, nor is it right for the acting city manager to attack another business on Facebook. Watching the last city council meeting, I noted the decision to move the landing area was never put to an official vote. And while Susan Cohen repeatedly said that the goal isn't to get rid of Start Skydiving, the information the council was given in the agenda leads me to believe otherwise. Why else would they include complaints that have nothing to do with where the parachutes are landing? The council is being provided false information, partial truths, and non-qualified opinions by Susan Cohen, Matt Eisenbraun, and Dan Dickton. Their only so-called expert source being Quadrant Aviation, which is known for providing assistance in removing skydivers from airports. The FAA and USPA have never been consulted, despite claims to the contrary, and the FAA and USPA guidelines that were quoted were intentionally redacted, misquoted, and taken out of context. Despite claims by Susan Cohen that the city has never approached Start Skydiving, despite claims made by Susan Cohen, the city has never approached Start Skydiving with the intention of good faith negotiations. Every suggestion they've made has been unrealistic. Susan Cohen was being clearly evasive at the last council meeting when asked a direct question. Matt Eisenbraun has stated that he wants the skydivers gone, and Dan Dickton has actively solicited negative comments from airport users and even non-users. He has gone so far as to provide free hangar space as a reward for doing this. The campaign of retaliation by these city employees is only getting worse. I think this group is scrambling to get rid of Start Skydiving before the new city manager is hired and can put a stop to their shenanigans. I think it's time the council took back the reins. I'm asking you to place a hold on the decision and to move the parachute landing area until the new city manager has been hired and an independent investigation has occurred on both the landing area situation and the city employees being accused of wrongdoing. Thank you.
Thank you. Levi Kramer. We have 4 cards left, just so everyone knows. Give you a little perspective. I believe Levi's coming from the rafters. Yes, he's on his way. After Levi, I have Lisa Hart, then Matt Harvey, and then James Davis, sorry, just so you guys know where you're at.
Getting my steps in today. Ready for me?
Yeah.
Madam Mayor and members of council, I am here today to echo many of the points that the previous speaker just made. I'm here to issue a formal complaint about the conduct of one of your employees. On May 15th, acting city manager Susan Cohen published a blog post in hopes of describing your rationale for moving forward the way in which that you did with the municipal airport. Now, I'm not complaining about an individual serving in the capacity as city manager making blog posts. In fact, I applaud the effort at transparency here. That's not why I am here to complain. Now, there are other people here today that will challenge the truthfulness of that statement, and while I do tend to agree with them, again, that is not why I am here speaking with you today. What I am formally complaining about is the general attitude Ms. Cohen presented with that post towards challengers, more specifically the practice of labeling questions brought by citizens of this town as to the truthfulness and the allegations of issues regarding integrity of council members as very disappointing. Madam Mayor, the people of this town have a duty to report these sorts of allegations against their leaders. It should be of the utmost importance of government to recognize these sorts of allegations and to take them seriously, not to sweep them under the rug and call them disappointing because we just so happen to have a policy disagreement with those making these statements. You all are elected officials and your employees are appointed ones. As public officials, you on occasion will be subject to these sorts of questions. It is entirely right and proper to be in a democratic society. If you cannot handle that, you have no business serving as a public official. And frankly, it's ridiculous that a 25-year-old has to stand here and explain that. You serve us, the people, not the other way around. Ms. Cohen's statements are wildly inappropriate and are absolutely fitting of a public apology to Start Skydiving, their supporters, and more importantly, the citizens of this town. These should come in the form of a public statement that is both published on the city's Facebook page as well as read at the next council meeting, as was done with Doug Adkins' apology for doing similar conduct. Finally, I will add my concerns for the decision-making of this body. When I was a student up at Ohio State, I had a professor who asked me where I was from. When I told him I was from Middletown, this guy was from nowhere near here. Without skipping a beat, he responded and said, the Steel City of the Skydiver. Now, come on, council lost parts of that steel mill already. We've lost public pools already. We've lost Weatherwax Golf Course. We had a proposal to lose pieces of Smith Park, and now we're looking at losing Start Skydiving. If you are wondering why people like to focus on the negative aspects of Middletown, maybe we should start to look at the fact that this body has historically driven away many of the good parts. I graduated with 325 people from Middletown High School. There are less than 100 of us still in Middletown today, and those that have left are not coming back anytime soon. Now, I acknowledge that many of these mistakes I've mentioned are mistakes by past council. I know that many of you were not parts of those decision-making processes. That's why that my question to you and my request here is that you do better. Thank you.
Lisa Hart.
Lisa Hart, 5329 Ranch States Drive. So I can tell you the first day I came to Middletown. It was April 20th in 2014. It was shortly before I graduated from Ohio State. And the reason I came was for skydiving. I did the Ohio State skydiving course, and that was my first introduction, and I was hooked. I've been back to Middletown many times. In fact, I spent most of my summer here. And my perspective is a little bit different. You guys have already heard about why the landing areas aren't safe, about the financial aspects. I am an EMT, I'm a nurse, I'm a skydiver, I'm a skydiving instructor, and I'm a mom. When I was pregnant last year, I did 63 skydives while pregnant because I felt safe where I was landing. But what I want to talk to you about is a little bit different. Because I'm an EMT and a nurse, very often I am the first responder when an accident occurs at the airport. I don't know if you've heard of the golden hour of trauma, but what it means is once an accident has occurred, the first hour is the most important. That first hour means getting care for your patient, getting them to the appropriate hospital, and part of being able to do that is being able to reach them. If we move our airport, we move our landing area over a mile from where we currently are, when I'm in the hangar, I can see if an accident's occurred. Based on where the accident's occurred, I can tell you probably what I'm going to be looking at when I get there, and how I need to already be thinking of what I need to be doing once I get there. What EMS needs to be told when they're called and they arrive, and that communication and their arrival time on scene is part of why our skydivers, when they do get hurt, typically walk away. My husband is John Hart III. He broke his back a couple of years ago. He's still walking away, and you know why he's still walking and he's still able to skydive? It's because first responders were able to get to him quickly. That golden hour of trauma, it means the difference between living and dying and also having permanent disabilities. And if our EMS can't get out to our landing area in an appropriate amount of time, or by the time they do get out there, having to drive through a rutted field, it can just further increase their injuries. So I ask you consider the time that it will take for somebody who is injured to receive care, if it were you or if it were somebody you loved or cared about. And part of the reason they're suffering a disability is because EMS just couldn't get to them in time, I feel like is an unacceptable reason, because we've had great response times in the past. We have great communication with EMS in Middletown, and I would hate for that to suffer because of a decision to move our landing areas that is unfounded. And I think that the ability that I have to be able to see based on where our people are landing and what skill levels they have, I won't be able to know exactly what I'm probably going to be walking into, and that preparation is really important.
Matt Harvey.
Hello, I'm Matt Harvey, 7650 Regal Parkway, Middleburg Heights. Good evening, respected members of council. I recently sent you an email with my full thoughts, so I will try to remain brief here. I've been a part-time resident of Middletown for 10 years, and I ran a hangar at the airport. I have 12 years in the sport of skydiving. I have 4,000 jumps all over the world, and I am a regional safety and training advisor appointed by the United States Parachute Association for Team Fast Tracks. Unequivocally, the new LZ is unsafe, both on the ground and in the air. As proposed, I would not permit a Team Fast Tracks member to train at the new LZ. It's far too dangerous. From the standpoint of an instructor, as you've heard from some today, it is like asking a student pilot to land on a runway with potholes. It's only a matter of time before there is an injury or death. Furthermore, it will put a severe economic strain on Start Skydiving. It is with my sincere and utmost respect for council that I say this. Any good intention is irrelevant here. This can only be viewed as an attempt to get rid of Start Skydiving, and that is how it will be remembered. Thank you for your time.
James Davis?
I live in Middletown. I'm a skydiver. I don't agree with this, what's going on. Like the guy presented, it is completely unsafe. I work construction. My job's unsafe as it is. I do this for fun. I don't have to worry about dodging airplanes while I'm going down the road. And if these people here have this much time on their hands to go around and do these things to other businesses, that's not cool. Y'all ain't going over to AK Steel and telling them to move their nasty slag dump out of Middletown or their nasty plant out of Middletown. Oh, because they bring in millions of dollars. This is a small business. Downtown's a ghost town. And you guys have time to try and effectively run them out. When they came here, whatever year it was, I remember it, they left Warren County. They came here, this place looked like crap. It looked like a total eyesore, like a lot of other places in Middletown. But they've made it look better. They've brought good to the community. They've done great for veterans that fought and died for our rights to be here, taking people with no legs on skydives that risked their lives for us to be here. And you're trying to move this away from them. They left there before and they grew. They could probably leave here again and grow somewhere else. And that's tax revenue for all of us, for this whole city. I drove down here today, I saw a toilet sitting by the side of the road. It's probably been there for months. Clean that stuff up, clean this town up. If you got this much time to go after a thriving industry, go after everybody. This ain't right. I feel it's a total waste of my tax dollars and anybody else that pays tax dollars in this town. And I think it only takes, 200 votes to get on this? That's not many. And there's a lot of skydivers come through here, and they'll vote y'all out. That's the way it is. I'm not trying to threaten nobody, but it's a good job. I'm sure it is. I'm proud of y'all. Y'all took what it takes to go out and get elected. I might be doing that soon. Have a good evening.
We had a couple people who asked to be able to donate their time still. I had Cheryl Compton and Mike Dirge with time left. Did anyone want to add their time that they had? Okay. Would it be appropriate to take a break before we continue, since it's been an hour and a half? Oh, did you, sorry. You wanted to give the rest of your time to Mr. Reeder? I have 1 minute, 20 seconds left from Mike Dirge. Can you please state your name and address for the record, please?
Yeah, my name's Ken Reeder. I live at 10760 Chester Road. I'm from Cincinnati. Thanks for hearing me. I'm a commercial pilot. I fly for the airlines. I also fly corporate, and I also have flown skydivers for Start Skydiving many years ago. While I was there, it was paramount. Safety was number one the whole time I was there. I come in with a lot of flying experience, and I've been to thousands of airports. And I probably have flown, I learned to fly 32 years ago, just north of here in Dayton. And I have more landings at Middletown Airport than anywhere else. I'm a flight instructor, so I've taught at Middletown. I've flown skydivers here. I also do aerobatics here. I am the lead pilot for Red Line Air Shows. This is my practice area. I do this here because, quite honestly, I love Middletown. I've been here around this area my whole life flying. And to see this happening, it really there's a lot of questions because I feel the same pressure for me on the air show side of things. Why am I being pushed out? I think there's ulterior motives here at times. I don't know what the reason is. And I'm here just to help. Nobody knew I was coming here tonight.
I'm the rest of Mr. Dubus's time. Yes, ma'am. There is 1 minute, 30 seconds left.
Great. So my concerns are very valid for what is happening in the city, what is happening at the airport, why it's happening at the airport. Let's be honest, there's not the industry, the Fortune 500 companies to actually help bring more aircraft, large aircraft, business aircraft into this area. The airport is perfectly suited for the way it's being used. The landing zone is a very big concern of mine, even bringing my students up here to fly. I want you guys to reconsider what is actually happening and why. When I come here to practice for my air shows, I do that about 20 minutes at a time, about 25 times a year. I have to have the practice for the FAA requirements, but it's also, this airport's perfect for this stuff. It's not well designed for beyond that. Let's just say it like that, at least not now and not for many years. Thanks for your time. I hope you can reconsider what you're doing here on the landing zone. Thank you.
Okay, so do we want to take a break? Is that how do we do that? I forget. We've done it once. Want to keep going? Break? No break.
I'm fine to keep going through through council comments, and then if we'd like to take a break.
It looks like someone lost a phone, by the way. If you could all look around, perhaps help that individual. What's that? Keys. Ah, that's you.
Yeah, just a black Nissan key fob.
Okay, if anyone sees that, please.
Nope, I haven't gone anywhere.
Okay, council comments are next. Let's start slightly out of order and go with Tal first. Mr. Moon.
All right. This thing is hard to speak with. I'd like to extend a happy Memorial Day to everybody here and everybody at home, and certainly express my heartfelt gratitude to our veterans. I'd like to extend a heartfelt welcome to our next city manager, Jim Palenik. Jim has a wealth of experience, having been in city or village management since 1987. He's worked in tight revenue environments. He's worked successfully with organized labor, managed large-scale economic development projects, and has significant experience in neighborhood development. And lastly, on that topic, I do want to thank Susan Cohen. She did not ask for this job. We asked her to take this job. It's been a difficult situation, and Susan, I thank you for your work these last several months. That's all I have, Your Honor.
Thank you. Councilmember Ninny.
First, just to explain myself a little bit. To be clear, the citizen comment guidelines currently limit comments to 3 minutes per person, but they also further limit the time allotted to 30 minutes total. This was already stated in the printed guidelines, but we obviously traditionally allow every individual who turns in a comment card to use their 3 minutes rather than cutting the comments off at 30 minutes. And I was simply asking for the limitations to be made on yielding time to prevent misuse of time and to hear from each person. Next, I'd like to address some of the concerns over the fireworks display and just say that I appreciate all of the work that our health and police departments do, and I fully support their decision to postpone those. It is my understanding that traditional celebrations are not a safe option for us, as they carry the compounded risk that we would be welcoming an unknown number of outside guests to our gathering places, since all of our neighboring communities have already canceled their displays. Finally, I would just like to thank everyone who came down tonight regarding our decision to move the drop zones at the Middletown Regional Airport. I appreciate the passion that you all have for our city. I saw it here tonight and in every email I have received and read in full over the past few weeks. Leading up to our last meeting, I also read every page of the provided reports from the city and interested parties at the airport. The safety of our citizens and guests is primarily important in every decision this council makes regarding the use of city-owned assets. I am assured that the city has reached out and are interested in sitting down with Start Skydiving to discuss ways that we could make the new drop zone even more safe, and that they are willing to work with START regarding logistical concerns, but I'm not convinced that the new drop zones are entirely unsafe or unusable by our tenants or visiting skydivers. I hope that we're able to work through this new challenge and can come together to continue to promote safe skydiving in Middletown. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Mulligan.
Thank you, Your Honor. Just adding my thanks to the members of the community and outside of the community that came to share their thoughts. I will point out that because of the threatened litigation, we're under legal counsel's direction not to comment publicly on this outside of what prepared remarks that have been prepared in statements. So I will not add to what Councilwoman Ninny said, but just again express my appreciation that this was for the people that spoke and know that this was a carefully considered decision over months and years with certainly a significant amount of input. Changing topics, it has come to my attention that the census counts for Middletown are not up to where we want them to be. So for the viewers at home, just please encourage your friends and family to fill out the census forms and get those in. I can't stress how important it is for us as a Middletown community to have an accurate count for the census. It affects everything from our representation in Congress to federal funding, state funding, so forth. So please do that. And that is all I have. Thank you, Your Honor.
Councilmember Bashori.
I want to thank everyone for their passion. As a small business owner, I can understand the concerns, and I appreciate that everyone's here to speak out and share their thoughts. And as Ms. Nenny said, we've all, I believe, and I can speak for myself only, read every email that's come through and every document and all of the information that's been provided, including the recommendation of our airport commission, who are clearly more experts than we are. And so again, I thank everyone for coming out. I also want to congratulate any of the businesses that opened this weekend. It was the first weekend back for a lot of businesses, which I know was anxiety-ridden enough, and I think people did a great job from what I'm hearing in trying to keep everyone safe, following protocols, and as we move into some more indoor expansion this week, I hope we'll see continued following of those rules. And again, I know the anxiety is there, so we all are excited to be back out and about, but still keep ourselves and our staffs and our patrons safe. And lastly, I'd like to also welcome Mr. Palenik. I think he is a terrific candidate. He has a breadth of experience that lays so well on top of Middletown and what we really need. I think he's a terrific fit. He brings insights and a steady hand to, I think, a heightened, difficult situation with being in a COVID environment, and I really look forward to him being here. And I echo Tal's thoughts about Susan. I don't think she would have ever known when she said, yes, I can step up and do this, what was ahead of her with this COVID virus. So she's really, I think, done an outstanding job, and I'm very grateful for her. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, for my comments, I want to echo the welcoming of James Palenik. We have that vote coming this evening, and I just wanted to say, I know there's some information out on social media. People seem concerned about his past employment, and I just want to read to you, council put together a comment about that because we're well aware of, his past employment, and here's the comment that we all put together on this. The City of Middletown City Council conducted a thorough nationwide search for a city manager in conjunction with management partners. We are extremely pleased with the selection of Mr. Palenik as a new leader in Middletown. The city is aware of Mr. Palenik's past employment, and management partners performed a thorough reference check. City Council addressed past employment issues directly with Mr. Palenik. Collectively, we felt his explanations solidified our decision to hire him as the city manager. Mr. Palenik is dedicated to the strategic successes of the communities he has served. In a city manager form of government like Middletown's, the city manager bridges the gap between the politics and the execution of the mission. Mr. Palenik is willing to work hard, bring successes to our city, and dedicate himself to the citizens of Middletown. We are confident he will gather the input of the city and execute the mission Middletown asks of him in a respectful and accountable manner. Based on his background and interviews, City Council believes Mr. Palenik has the right mix of experience, demeanor, and management style to bring Middletown community together and lead us to our brighter future. So I just want to make sure the citizens read that or were able to listen to that as well, but we did submit that to the press so that they can also put that out there. And I want to remind you, too, that actually the average lifespan for a city manager in most places is about 4 to 5 years. So it's pretty common for things like that to happen, and Mr. Palenik actually has never been terminated by anyone who hired him. So I just wanted to put that out there so everyone knows, and we're really excited to welcome him to Middletown. I want to give you a quick update on COVID-19. We have 72 cases now in Middletown. The testing abilities have increased, and so, which of course plays heavily into the confirmed case number. I am a huge proponent of opening the economy back up, but I do wish to remind everybody, especially the elderly and those with health deficiencies, that the virus is out there even more, of course, than it was 2 months ago. We all have to make our own decisions while taking into account the health and the safety of everyone around us. And the health department, man, they continue to be a big beacon of strength in this community, so big shout out to them. I'll go ahead and comment about the 4th of July as well. So as most of you know, thanks to Mr. Richter, I'm hell-bent on celebrating our nation's Independence Day, despite COVID-19. Our police department does not feel that they have the manpower to support a city-sponsored fireworks demonstration in Middletown that would abide by social distancing regulations and safety recommendations. And I have a great deal of respect for our police and fire departments, and I do support their decisions. The city staff is looking into other ways that we can use some of the funds to instill national and local pride here in Middletown in a unique way to boost our city's morale and of our citizens, and then help also remind us all how fortunate we are to be Americans. So I just wanted to give you an update on that. And then my final comments are about commissions. City Council and the citizens of Middletown are extremely grateful for all the volunteers who put their time and effort into being members of commissions and councils in our city. It's a significant amount of effort that they make. It also comes with it a great deal of responsibility. Following my request at the last meeting for commissions and committees to get their minutes up to date with state and municipal regulations, City Council received 19 sets of meeting minutes. I'm going to put quotes around meeting minutes from various commissions meetings over the last 2 years. You see tonight on the agenda that council is only voting to approve 2 sets of those minutes. That's the Board of Health, in addition to the 3 from council. That's because none of the other minutes provided were in a form worthy of council approval. 17 sets of minutes had no signatures. I want to give our citizens an overview of what was submitted in order to provide some transparency to some of what occurs prior to what you see up here bi-monthly. So I'm going to go through each one as fast as I can here. I'm going to start in alphabetical order, the Airport Commission. From all the documentation I have, now I'm not going to comment about anything, the topics discussed in these meetings, only the logistics of approval of minutes and things. So from the Airport Commission, right, from the documentation I have, this commission has been in violation of the Ohio Open Meetings Law for the last 2 years for one reason or another at every single meeting. The last approved meeting minutes were from April of 2018. The records of these meetings in any government meeting or discussion are the records of the people, and we have no records to provide the people. August 2019, no quorum met at this meeting. This meeting is invalid. September 2019, no minutes. Council received an agenda and a bunch of attachments. There's no proof that there was any information discussed at this meeting. Also, I would like to note, Matt King should be automatically removed from the commission following a failure to attend at 2 meetings in a row without being excused. I'm going to read the city charter for you right now. Part 2, Title 8, Chapter 260 of the charter states, any member of a city board or commission established by ordinance who fails to attend 2 successive meetings of the board or commission to which he or she has been appointed and such absences are not excused by a majority vote of said board or commission shall thereupon be automatically dismissed as a member of such board or commission, and his office or her office or place of appointment shall become vacant. Also, there is no signature. October 2019, no quorum. Again, an invalid meeting. Again, no minutes. 2 different members should automatically be removed. Tom Anderson and Nicholas Brown for failure to attend 2 meetings in a row. No signatures. January 2020, no sign-in or attendee list, no minutes. No signatures. February 2020, no minutes, no signatures. March 2020, no quorum. Another invalid meeting, no minutes, no signatures. I'm going to move on to the Civil Service Commission. This is the matter of no signatures on the meeting minutes from September, October, November, and December, and just one minor issue of an incorrect date at the end of the December 2019 minutes. The Architectural Review Board, this is a unique one because they don't meet very often, but they did. It says these minutes were claiming to have been approved despite a lack of the next meeting. I believe it would be prudent just to state how and when the minutes were approved, because since they didn't meet again, it brings that into question, and there were no signatures. Planning Commission, November 2019, December 2019, no signatures. Board of Zoning Appeals, December 2019, no signatures. Historic Commission, December 2019, no signatures. The Board of Health were approved. Well, I plan to approve those. I assume everyone will. There are signatures on there. Midpoint Library System Board of Trustees, February and March 2020, no signatures. Now, I say that the issue with the no signatures is there's just no accountability. We don't know that anyone on that board even approved the minutes. So accountability and transparency are not just requirements. They're one of the tools by which a governing body earns the trust of its constituents. It is only with the earned gift of trust that we're able to build cohesive momentum and propel our city into its brighter future. I greatly value the purposeful efforts our commission members make to the city, and I really do look forward to their continued communications, successes, and positive impact. And that's all I have this evening.
On a different topic, can I make a suggestion? On the fireworks, I've seen other communities around the country are potentially delaying them until Labor Day. I don't know if we've considered looking at that. I don't expect a response, but that just might be an option to take that and do it in the fall.
Thank you.
Thanks, Sal. Okay, with that, do we want to take a break, or you guys want to push forward? How are you feeling?
I would say keep moving.
All right, let's do it. Okay, next we have city manager report.
Need a break?
No.
Oh.
Someone needs a break, please say it, I won't be offended. Okay.
Never.
It's hard, with the mask, I can't see your expression.
I don't take breaks.
I'm going to take my mask off long enough to speak. Council members, I will keep this short because I know we've already discussed a few of the items I wanted to discuss this evening. I'm looking forward to welcoming Mr. Palenik starting, and I'm happy to have been included in this process, and I look forward to his leadership in Middletown. We did discuss the 4th of July, and so I won't reiterate that, but I wanted to make sure everyone realized that the decision to postpone the fireworks was made by a committee involving our public safety as well as our public health department. I take their opinions very seriously, as does I'm sure the rest of council, and we used that in making our decision, and that alone. We will be looking and working towards finding another creative way, perhaps a drive-through or some way to celebrate our 4th of July, as well as the servicemen and women that have contributed to making Middletown great, as well as this country. So we'll be working on that as well as we get closer to the 4th of July. One of the biggest concerns I've had over the past few weeks along with skydiving issues has been the increase in gun violence in the city. I want to send my most sincere admiration for the Middletown Division of Police. These officers have been working tirelessly to keep us safe and solve crimes in an amazingly efficient manner. Their professionalism continues to show how lucky we are to have them working here for the Middletown citizens. And speaking with Chief Burke, I know officers are trying to step up enforcement, but have been trying to balance that with the ongoing COVID-19 concerns and are working in that fashion. We're looking to bring back use of neighborhood watch and local accountability, working out the logistics of trying to figure out how to make those meetings work safely. As we look to the 2021 budget this summer and fall, I hope to work with Council and Mr. Palenik to look at the community-oriented policing unit that we discussed at our last retreat, and to be able to have some officers dedicated to address these particular kind of issues that I believe are at the forefront of our citizens' needs and minds. With this, I would like for everyone remaining in the room, as well as those watching, our best line of defense, along with the police, is that citizens are aware of their surroundings, that they continue to report and come forward when they know that something is happening. It helps hold your fellow citizens accountable. It also helps in the police and the response. We need to continue to look at this issue, and the amount of gun violence and serious violence that's been going on in the past few weeks is simply unacceptable. So I will bring that to the forefront of my concerns here as we move forward. Thank you. With regards to the airport, I appreciate everyone's passion for which they came here today. I am not going to rehash the issues. I merely want to point out that we have been collecting a section of emails that have been sent from the city on this matter. There's also a timeline that I'll be happy to provide to any person dating back to the amount of communications that we've had on this matter. The city has strived and I believe have done our best job to try to reach out to all members of the community and say, hey, this is what we're doing, please provide us feedback. I'll again provide that to any person that's necessary, but it shows a continual involvement request by the city to continue to get involvement from Start Skydiving as well as other users. There are two particular concerns though I want to bring to the attention of those that remain in the audience as well as those that are watching. There's been ongoing discussions about why we didn't contact the FAA. I want to point out in these emails as well as other records that we have raised this issue with the FAA multiple times. First, on March 4th, 2019, our consultant Wolpert reached out to the Deputy Director of the Airport Division for the Great Lakes of the FAA. He was out of the office. The manager filling in for him replied. In their reply, when we asked them about skydiving drop zones, they pointed us to Advisory Circular 1052E and helpfully highlighted one phrase in the circular. The phrase they chose to highlight is that, and I'm going to read this whole thing because it doesn't make sense if it's just the highlighted portions, and then I'll let you know where the highlighting began. The phrase they chose to highlight is that while skydivers attempt to land in such areas, as times there may be inadvertent landings on other grass and hard surfaced areas. Highlighting begins. This could include landings on runways, taxiways, and other hard surfaced areas. Highlighting ends. Areas such as, and highlighting begins again. Runways, taxiways, clearways, and obstacle-free zones are not prohibited areas, but should not be designated as primary landing area and should be vacated as soon as possible, as soon as practical. That was the response we received from that agency. We continued to reach out to the ADO in Detroit on March 3rd of this year, March 5th of this year, March 26th of this year, have not received a response. I again reached out to them today to try and ask, in the idea of we want to speak with everyone possible, please tell us what we need to be doing. There's a separate entity, the Cincinnati FSDO, who is our local entity. We reached out to them on March 5th, March 10th, April 1st, again reaching out on May 15th, eagerly requesting a meeting. We finally received a meeting yesterday, spoke to the FSDO in Cincinnati. We explained the process that we've taken so far, the locations of the old drop zones, and the proposed relocation. Their analysts guided us that under their regulatory scheme, and the appropriate regulation they would enforce state that the airport manager and sponsor have the ability to set the drop zones. They had no reason to get involved until there was a safety complaint filed, and that had not been done at this point in time. The city is speaking and continues and is willing to speak with every person that has a concern about this. But this is not a matter of taking this decision lightly. Over a period of years, we've decided and tried to speak to every person available. We will continue to do that and listen to the independent experts to improve the safety and operations of Middletown Regional Airport as an asset for all of our citizens. That's all I have today.
Thank you. Next, we have the consent agenda. Ms. Skink, would you like to present that for us, please?
For your consideration, we move the approval of the city council minutes from January 4th, to receive and file board and commission minutes from the Board of Health from February 11th and March 10th, 2020. To receive and file oaths of office for Chriselle Lyons and Evan Scrobot, and to confirm the following personnel appointments. Ryan Rollins to the position of control officer in the Department of Public Safety, Division of Police, and Jeff Getters to the position of part-time community security officer in the Department of Public Safety, Division of Police.
Do you have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So move for adoption.
Second. Ms. Skink, you please call the roll.
Mr. Moon.
Yes.
Mr. Mulligan.
Yes.
Mayor Condrey.
Yes.
Ms. Nenny.
Yes.
Ms. Vettori.
Yes.
For the motion agenda, for your consideration to approve the contract with various vendors for nuisance abatement services of vacant or city-owned properties and private properties that have failed to abide by the city's codified ordinances within the city of Middletown. The bid has been divided into 5 groups with the intent to award separate contractors, since it is unknown how many work orders the city will have for nuisance abatement services in each group. The groups were created based on the number of work orders completed in 2019. The contract is for the remainder of 2020 with an optional renewal of 2 additional one-year periods. It is recommended to award the contract to the following contractors, approximate annual cost based on 2019 work order statistics, assuming all groups have equal work orders. Group 1, Possum Holler Designs, LLC, $79.50. Group 2, results by Carol LLC, $61,518. Group 3, Possum Holler Designs LLC, $55,379.50. Group 4, Cam Lawn Care, $62,614.17. And Group 5, Julie's Lawn Care, $62,614.17.
I have a motion to approve the motion agenda.
So move for adoption.
Second.
Ms. Skanku, please call the roll for us.
Mr. Mulligan.
Yes.
Mayor Condrey.
Yes.
Mr. Torrey.
Yes.
Ms. Denny.
Yes.
Mr. Moon.
Yes.
Okay, do we need to do a motion for the emergency vote piece? I always forget how that works.
Yeah, that's typically included as part of my presentation, but
Okay,
I have before
great.
you 6 legislative items, all but the 5th of which are proposed as emergency measures passed on their first reading. So as you had pointed out, Mayor, I just request council to waive the charter provisions for first, second readings and effective dates, please.
I move that the charter provision requiring readings on 2 separate days be waived and that ordinance number O-2020-22, ordinance O-2020-23, resolution 2020-12, resolution 2020-13, resolution 2020-15 be declared emergencies and read one time only.
Second.
Can I ask a question before we vote on that? If we think that one should not be an emergency, how do we vote? Like if I don't believe that one of the items should be an emergency vote. How does that work?
Simple majority, so you can vote no, but if the majority still go with it, it would pass as an emergency.
Okay, thank you for clarifying. I appreciate that. Okay, Ms. Skanku, please call the roll for us.
Mayor Condrey.
No.
Ms. Vittori.
Yes.
Ms. Nenny.
Yes.
Mr. Moon.
Yes.
Mr. Mulligan.
Yes.
All right, we'll go ahead and get started with the first, which is ordinance number O-2020-22, an ordinance establishing a procedure for and authorizing an amendment of the contract with CBM Managed Services, now known as Summit Food Services, for jail food services and declaring an emergency.
Do we have any comments before we put the vote?
So move for adoption. And then normally we do.
Oh, we moved it first. Sorry. Okay, thank you.
Second.
Okay, now do we have comments?
I was merely going to comment that since the last meeting, council had asked me to go back and see if there were other solutions available to this problem. I had the jail staff as well as our purchasing agent who handled these bids reach out to the agent and discuss all of the options that were listed as well as trying to determine if there were additional options available. We did also, the mayor provided us the list of the items that she wanted to be considered. After discussion with the Summit Food Services, they are unwilling to accept any compromise that does not involve the back pay. The best option, and the one we have now have proposed in front of you in my mind, was that we go ahead and agree to the back pay issue and that any food that we pay for now will be delivered and donated to local agencies. I spoke with Mr. Williams at the Hope House and indicated that there would be a potential to donate the remaining food there. Ms. Nenny also brought up potential for school programs as the kids that are out of school need help with lunches and things, and we're open to working with them to try and find a solution so perhaps we could spread that benefit around to the community. I understand this is a situation no one wanted to be in. The staff is not looking at you and saying, hey, this is a really great, wonderful thing to have happen, but the concern is that if we are not to approve that, we've been indicated that the Summit Food Services will exercise their 90-day cancellation provision, which puts us in a situation where we are either unable to feed the occupants of the jail and would need to consider relocating them elsewhere, or we're going to be in a situation where we are rebidding and we are now known in the market that we are in an emergency situation, and I fear that the prices in any bid moving forward would reflect that, and I'm concerned for the budget moving forward. Obviously, no one can tell you exactly what is going to happen, but those are my two fears moving forward.
Food prices are also going up, just as someone who buys food wholesale regularly, everything's going up. So I would tend to agree with the idea that prices would go up in a new contract.
Ms. Cohen, so just play that out with me a little bit. If we balk at this, we split our inmates that we have between Butler and Warren. If we don't have a food service contract, any further arrests, people that get arrested would go to Butler or Warren for an indefinite period of time. In my mind, I'm playing that out as, is that a potential situation if COVID elongates for 6-9 more months? What does that do for our potential to have a jail? Does it put it in question?
I do not know the exact answer of how long you have to have people out of jail to effectively lose your certifications. I apologize, I just don't know that information off the top of my head. I think it is certainly a possibility, but I don't know what the exact number of days are. Where, you know, if you don't have occupants, you're considered and need to get recertified.
Yeah.
But it is certainly a possibility.
I guess a question I could have asked earlier, was there ever a time when the city took care of the preparing the food for the jail themselves and did not contract out, or has that historically been contracted out?
To my knowledge, that has historically been contracted out, but that would be the last, let's say, 7 years since I've been here.
Okay.
It definitely feels like the city's getting bullied and taken advantage of by a contractor.
2020.
And I think
Yeah.
no one is looking at you saying this is wonderful.
I know.
We're so excited about this.
Yeah, this is just, you know, my feelings. Yeah, it feels like we're being taken advantage of by a contractor who has a monopoly on small jails, which, quite frankly, they seem to want out of that business anyway. I just think also, based on some comments that I saw, Doug's reduction, Doug Adkins, former city manager, his reduction in the inmate numbers has been hurting this contract for a while now. So this is hinged upon COVID-19, but clearly has been an issue based on some things that the former city manager did. I feel like the vendor should have understood its break-even point and put that information into the contract. It's disgusting to me that we're basically bailing out a company. And I feel like they made the absolute bare minimum compromise by saying, yeah, we'll give you your food that you paid for. It's like, better. So I don't like that. But, you know, I hate making a decision that goes against the principles I believe in, because this seemingly goes against those principles. But I also don't believe in our citizens' dollars being wasted in order to fight an issue based on principle, at least in this particular case. So while I disagree with how this company has taken advantage of our city, I would definitely like to see us, as soon as possible, research what other companies are out there and alternatives. And like Ms. Indy said, maybe take it in-house. That could be an option. I don't want to lose our jail. I think it's really valuable for us to have that. But if this voting yes tonight is going to save our citizens money in the end, I'll do it. I'm not going to be happy about it, though. So
I don't think anyone's happy about it.
I know.
No, and I would just add that, you know, it does, as the mayor pointed out, the vendor here is claiming that the break-even point is 50, and they're blaming COVID-19 for this. But if you look at the census head count for the jail, 2019, January, 35 was the average. February was 33. This is 2019. March, 36. April, 51. May of 19 was 38. June was 41. July was 41. August was 52. September was 53. So, I mean, we haven't been above 50 or 60 for a year or more. And to me, it also exposes a deficiency on our part as a city government not to reach out to other jurisdictions and get into an intergovernmental buying arrangement where we are not, you know, that increases our buying power. We should not have a contract that's standalone. We should be in with the same vendor from the Butler County Jail or the Warren County Jail or some other institution. But for us to try to feed 50 people a day or 40 people a day or now 12 people a day, it's not going to be cost effective. It's just bad planning. So I think we can do better as an organization. Thank you.
If approved, how long would this extend our contract to?
This contract is set to expire at the end of this year.
Mm-hmm.
I have already had discussions with the staff that we need to look at rebidding this before the end of the year. So traditionally, we look at budgets for next year, late summer, early fall, into late fall. I would love to have have a rebid done so that when we're building in a budget for next year, that we have some very solid information to build that budget. So that would require bidding probably midsummer.
I would like to also potentially look into our ability to take care of this in-house. I know we have the city kitchen that does lunches for city staff. We've got local caterers. I mean, I don't know, there's got to
Or
be some.
Sodexo with the schools, I don't know. If
Yeah,
we've
with the
listened to
school,
that.
could the school provide? I think that there are a lot of other different options we could explore in addition to rebidding.
And then the intergovernmental agreements, which I think is a great idea too.
Well, and the other, as soon as Mr. Palenik gets on board, I mean, we'll have that retreat, but we also need to figure out what's going on with the jail long-term.
Yep.
I mean, other jails in the area are trying to reduce population, and you saw the email today that we're trying to get back up to 60, or 60 or more. So I'm just concerned about, you know, in a COVID environment, non-COVID environment, what's the long-term plan for that? So if we can have a frank discussion about that, we should.
Any more comments before we vote? Okay, Ms. King, will you please call the roll for us?
Ms. Vettori?
Yes.
Ms. Nenny?
Yes.
Mr. Moon?
Yes.
Mr. Mulligan?
Yes.
Mayor Condrey?
Yes.
All right, next up on the agenda is ordinance number O-2020-3, an ordinance authorizing a collective bargaining agreement with the Fraternal Order of Police Ohio Labor Council, its corrections officers, for the years January 1, 2020 through December 31st, 2022, and declaring an emergency.
So move for adoption?
Second.
Ms. King, will you please call, oh, sorry, does anyone have comments?
I would just point out, this contract did expire at the end of last year, the January 1 of 2020, so we have been well negotiating this for a period of months. I feel the contract terms we've agreed to are similar to what we've awarded other employees. There are cost of living increases commensurate with what we've given to other employees. There are some changes in compensatory time that will ultimately limit city liability in the long term. There's also the adoption of the extended wage step scale that I think is to the city's benefit. There's some operational updates with vacation time, bereavement leave that we've been trying to push throughout the organization. And I value these employees and I appreciate them getting an agreement.
I'd like to echo council's value of these employees as well. I know we all do very much. Any other comments? Okay, Ms. Skank, will you please call the roll?
Ms. Nenny?
Yes.
Mr. Moon?
Yes.
Mr. Mulligan?
Yes.
Mayor Condrey?
Yes.
Ms. Vettori?
Yes.
Third item is resolution number R-2020-12, a resolution authorizing the city manager to enter into an agreement with the Federal Aviation Administration for CARES Act grant funding and declaring an emergency.
So move for adoption?
Second.
Any comments?
Yes, Your Honor. This is $69,000 in funding that came in as part of the federal government passed the CARES Act. This is grant money to be used for either operational or capital needs at the airport. There is no local match.
Any other comments? Seems like free money. Okay, Ms. Skank, will you please call the roll?
Mr. Moon?
Yes.
Mr. Mulligan?
Yes.
Mayor Condrey?
Abstain?
Ms. Nenny?
Yes.
Ms. Vettori?
Yes.
Fourth item is resolution number R-2020-13, a resolution authorizing an amendment to a contract with the State of Ohio Department of Transportation for the extension of the Great Miami River Trail and declaring an emergency.
So move for adoption?
Second.
Any comments on this one?
This is the second piece of legislation that I hate that we have to have in front of us this evening. On April 7th, you heard a piece of legislation allowing us to enter into the bid process to extend the bike path that we've been trying to work on. After that bid, as typical, ODOT took that project out for bid. The bids came back significantly larger than they would have had on their original estimate. That was largely due, as it was explained to me, due to some retaining wall work that is significant due to the grade between the river and where the bike path actually is. We did discuss with them about potential for rebidding the project. They indicated because of the cost in the retaining wall, they didn't feel that rebidding would be beneficial, and they were not inclined to do that at this time. So we unfortunately are looking for options because we would like this project to be able to move forward. Asking you this evening to approve $169,840 to be used from the general capital fund for this expenditure. I've spoken with council, and I want to make clear that we, instead of having this be completely new money, we've looked at delaying other projects around the city building that would have otherwise been planned for this year with general capital funds in order to make this as budget neutral as possible.
Susan, who did the original cost estimate on this one? I forget.
ODOT.
ODOT did it?
Mhm.
Hmm. Okay. Any other comments?
I would just add, we did talk about this back in April, but this is a project that is probably 10-plus years in the making. So this is our opportunity to finally complete that section of trail, and it will be good for tourism for Middletown, and it'll be great for our residents and visitors alike. So it is a significant investment, but I think it shows that we're preparing for the future, and that future involves tourism and taking care of our residents.
I just want to add my appreciation for staff getting creative on this one and finding ways to make this sort of a neutral insertion of cash into this at the cost of some improvements that we've really been hoping to make around the city building. So I appreciate that creativity.
I also noticed there were some well-thought-out alternatives in the staff memo, which I appreciated very much. Okay, Ms. Skank, will you please call the roll for us?
Mr. Mulligan?
Yes.
Mayor Condrey?
Yes.
Ms. Vettori?
Yes.
Ms. Nenning?
Yes.
Mr. Moon?
Yes.
Thank you. The fifth item is resolution number R 2020-14, a resolution to make adjustments to appropriations for current expenses and other expenditures for the city of Middletown, counties of Butler and Warren, state of Ohio, for the period ending December 31st, 2020, pertaining to the municipal garage fund. This is just the first reading.
And the final piece of legislation that I hate to see this evening. Back in 2019, on the consent agenda, council approved spending $43,931.56 for a new power load cot and associated equipment for a fire medic from Stryker. We received the equipment. There was issues with the billing and the ownership. Stryker changed in the middle of the billing. The city was issued an inadvertent credit, never received the invoice for the cot portion of the charges. After all the invoicing issues were resolved from our finance department and the vendor and the division of fire, the city still owes Stryker $23,224.86 of the previously delivered equipment. This was unknown when preparing the 2020 budget, so we're asking for a supplemental appropriation to make the mistake whole. Being paid out of municipal garage fund.
Another darn it, really. Yeah.
What effect would this appropriation have on potential future funding projects that would come out of the municipal garage?
I don't believe there is immediate impact. There's always some additional funds in that fund that we utilize as we can. And so they're just asking to use it this way.
Thank you.
Unless there's anything further, that's just a first reading, and I'll move on to the sixth and final item.
Thank you.
All right, that being resolution number R 2020-15, a resolution authorizing an employment agreement with James M. Palenik to serve as city manager of the city of Middletown and declaring an emergency.
So move for adoption.
Second. Any comments?
Just would like to welcome Jim to Middletown, and we look forward to all the good work that he will do here.
Absolutely, I echo that.
I agree.
If you could see our smiles, Jim, I'm sure.
I hope you're watching. You better be.
Here, there you go. Everyone's. Okay, Ms. Skank, will you please call the roll for us?
Mayor Condrey?
Yes.
Ms. Vettori?
Yes.
Ms. Nenning?
Yes.
Mr. Moon?
Yes.
Mr. Mulligan?
Yes.
That concludes your legislation. Thank you.
And with that, unless there's any other comments, I forgot to see when our next meeting is. Our next meeting, do we have any other comments before I close this out? Okay, our next council meeting, it would be scheduled for June the 2nd. at 17:30 or 5:30 p.m. here in council chambers. Until then, blue skies over Middletown.